Alrighty, it is time once again for another DVD slash horror film review, whatever you want to call this. And we are now just about to the end of the Wrong Turn series. So, of course, today we're going to be talking about Wrong Turn 5 Bloodlines. So, this one right here, the first, it's for rental only, not anymore. I bought this from Family Video when Family Video was going out of business. I did see it when it first came out, but that's just whenever I picked this one up. My Wrong Turn 6 is the same way. I was going to say it has that rental exclusive on it. But there's nothing really special about the DVD. I don't really think there's really any special features or anything like that on it. But this is the unrated cut. And I still remember seeing this one for the first time, and you know, I really didn't like it then, and every time I come back to try to watch it, you know, I always like feel like it's better, or I want to like it a lot more than I do, but I don't know, I can't get into it like I can, you know, like 4 coming off of the fourth one, which I really enjoy, even though it's just as ridiculous and just as cheesy. You know, I really enjoyed that one. You know, again, I have nostalgic, you know, some nostalgia tied to that, so that could be why. But you know, with this one, you know, like I said, every time I go back, I remember it being a little bit better, and so I get excited to watch it, and then I sit down and watch it, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll get into that. You know, some more here in just a minute, but I want to start off. It is written and directed once again by Declan O'Brien. So Declan O'Brien's been with us, you know, since 3. You know, he directed that one, I believe, and then he wrote and directed the fourth one, and then wrote and directed this one. And this is the last of the kind of prequel trilogy that we had, or well, I guess no, not a trilogy. I'm sorry, the prequel films. If you want to count the 6th one as a prequel, you know, it's, to me, it's more of a reboot. But we'll get into that whenever we talk about that one. But this one, it came out in, when did this come out? When did this come out? In 2012 is when this one came out. I'll say right before Halloween, actually. And it stars Camilla Afwedison, I believe is how you say that, Simon Ginty, Roxanne McKee, Paul Lubeck, Oliver Hoare, and Kyle Redmond Jones, and the one and only Doug Bradley is in this film. Yes, Pinhead is in this film from Hellraiser. You know, not in character, of course, but he kind of shows up, and I remember thinking, I saw that actor, and I was like, is that Doug Bradley? That can't be Doug Bradley. What is he doing in this damn movie? And sure enough, when it comes on, it sure as hell is Doug Bradley. And I'm like, holy shit. You know, I just really was not expecting him to show up in this movie at all. So I thought that was kind of cool to see him. But right off the bat, I'll start off, you know, most of these films have the this kind of opening scene. I haven't really talked about them in the other videos, but they all have kind of an opening scene that kind of ties into everything later on in the film. And this one kind of does that, but not really. It really kind of just starts you right out in the middle of everything, and it's basically following this group of you know, teenagers or college students, I think they are in this movie, and they're going to this town for a what's called a Mountain Man Festival. So the Mountain Man Festival is kind of like Burning Man, you know, and everybody's dressed up in costumes, and there's music and all this other stuff, and you know, and it takes place on Halloween, I believe. You know, they touch on that a little bit. It's not explicitly stated that it's on Halloween, but you know, a few times they say something about it being on Halloween. So I thought that was a cool concept that this one is taking place on, you know, or on or around Halloween, and I like the setting of it. And basically, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in this town for this festival, and the mountain men cannibals just literally show up out of nowhere. There's just a scene where they just kind of, they pop up and they're there, and you're like, oh shit, we're in this now. There they are. And so I think it's kind of funny the way that they get brought into this. You know, it's just so just out of nowhere. And of course, we get Three Finger, One Eye, and Sawtooth again. I believe they're played by different people. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then, of course, Doug Bradley. He's kind of the leader of this bunch. And I don't know if he is, I guess, supposed to evolve into the old man, or he becomes the old man later on in the films, like from the first and the second movie. I don't know if that's kind of what they were going for. But that's the character he's playing. He's just kind of the father figure, or the mentor kind of figure to the three cannibals, and he kind of they're living with him, and he's kind of killing with them, and I guess teaching them how to kill and do all this other stuff. So they changed the lore of the hillbillies just a little bit. And so as you go on, Doug Bradley ends up getting arrested, and along with one of the members of this group of kids that's there for this Mountain Man festival, and they end up going to jail, and the sheriff is watching them. And then as the night goes on, the Mountain Men, they cut the power to the entire town. So the entire town, which is booming with people and excitement and everything, it just goes dead quiet, and you never see anyone else ever again. So like everyone just disappears, which is one thing that really kind of bothered me a little bit about this movie. Is I'm like, there would at least be somebody out here. This is a decent, it's not a big town, but it's a decent sized town, that there'd be somebody out here. And it doesn't even look like that there was a festival. It's just everything is just a clean, empty street. So that is something I didn't really care for too much. But one thing I did like is I liked the fact that they went back to, there's still definitely a lot of CG in this one, but I like that they did some more practical effects in this. I always prefer that. And there's some really unique kills in this one, like the tow truck scene, which I have something to say about the tow truck here in a second. But the tow truck scene, where they're pulling the guy with the tow truck. If you see it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give it away too much. And then the lawnmower scene, on the soccer field, I thought that was cool. I really liked that. And so speaking of the tow truck, that's one thing about this that I thought was weird. So there's a scene where the group of kids, they get into a car accident, and the sheriff, who's kind of our main protagonist in this movie, one of them, I guess, she calls for a tow truck to come pick this up. And then in the next scene, you see the Mountain Men with the tow truck. And so that kind of messes with the continuity a little bit, because in the end of which of course I'm not, a stickler for continuity in films like this, but I thought it was odd that, the same guy who did this one, he changed it around. So I guess this one could be kind of a reboot as well. But the next scene, they're in a tow truck, and you're like, oh, so well, that's where they got the tow truck from. Well, at the end of Wrong Turn 4, there is a scene with the tow truck pulling up. So, that looks like their tow truck from the first film. So I don't really know why they did that, and you never really see anything with the tow truck driver that I remember. They just kind of show up in the tow truck, and basically the Mountain Men are just trying to free Doug Bradley from this cell the whole movie. And that's kind of the plot we roll with. And there is one thing, I think this one takes place in 2003, which is also when the first movie takes place. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. Just how the fact that, if Doug Bradley is supposed to, in fact, sorry, my dogs are scratching at the door. If Doug Bradley is in fact supposed to be this old man, from the first two films, I don't know, the timeline just doesn't really add up. But again, I'm not, a stickler for continuity and stuff like this. I just think it's odd, that they would include stuff like that if they can't really, I guess, pay it off or whatever. But having said that, Doug Bradley, he was doing a great job in this movie. He feels like he belongs in a different movie, honestly. And a lot of the actors are fine, but I feel like the writing was very poor. There's some silly decision choices made by some of the actors, and I think it all just kind of goes back to how it was written. And it's no fault to them. Of course, the acting is not great whatsoever. There's just not really, I don't know, there's not a lot of a lot of great actors and actresses in this film, but everybody's doing a decent job for what it is. But the main just glaring thing that always bothers me is, I'll just use this as an example. But from what I remember, there is a scene with one of the cops who is guarding the music festival, which is in full swing, and a girl comes up and she's like, "Oh, I'll do anything to get a backstage pass to this band," and blah blah blah. So they end up going in the car and they're having sex, and the sheriff is trying to get a hold of him, and his radio is left on the hood, and that's supposedly her backup. One of the other cops that she was with earlier, he was killed off, unbeknownst to her at this point. But then we never hear from this guy again. So I guess we can just assume that this guy was hooking up with this girl all night long, because we again never see him again. He never gets back on the radio. And then, of course, after that, everyone disappears. They're just in this big empty town, and we are focused on our main few characters, So that was one kind of issue that I had with it that I thought was silly, that whole town aspect. Like, they could have done a lot more with the Mountain Man Festival, because everyone is dressed up in the kind of Mountain Man hillbilly attire. And, the hillbillies can kind of blend in. Like, there's a few scenes where people think that they're just in costumes. And, so I like that idea. It kind of reminded me of Texas Chainsaw 3D a little bit. Just that idea where they go to the festival. But I think that, I don't know, they just didn't really execute it very well in this. The plot is really interesting. I like kind of what they've got going for it. It's just, again, the execution is not the best, so I think that it kind of falls flat in a few places. But I will say, this one is, again, if you're just wanting another schlocky Wrong Turn sequel, because at this point, we're on number 5, and this, I guess, is technically the last one before the first one would pick up. I guess it can give you everything, or it'll be everything you hoped for if you enjoy that kind of, if that's what you like out of Wrong Turn, which I do too. I love the second one, and honestly, this one, it was kind of. It wasn't as good as the second one, but it was still a lot of fun, and I do have fun watching it, but it's again not my favorite. Like, every time I sit down to watch this one, I'm like, maybe this one won't be so bad, because it's just, maybe I'm remembering it worse than what it actually is, or whatever have you. But no, every time I put it on and it ends, I feel the same way. I'm like, okay, that one's not as good. I don't really, that's just kind of how I feel about it. But nonetheless, it is a fun watch, especially part of a marathon. But anyway, like I've said in the past videos, I'm not going to rate this one, because I am going to rank them all at the end whenever I do Wrong Turn 6, which is the last one that I'm going to do. I'm not going to do Wrong Turn the Foundation just quite yet, because that one, to me, it kind of is kind of its own movie. It'd be like me adding Halloween 3 to a Halloween franchise, review, which, it would fit perfectly fine, but I feel like more justice would be done to that film on its own, but I do really like the Wrong Turn the Foundation. I do enjoy that entry in the series. But like I said, we'll talk about that one eventually. Right now, I'm just going to do the original 6, the ones that just kept going. They kept pumping them out over and over, and it's kind of becoming a franchise. But anyway, that's beside the point. I guess it's absolutely is a franchise at this point. But anyway, that does it for me. We've only got one of these left, and then we will be done with the Wrong Turn series, and we will step into the ranking. So that'll be next time. I see you guys. Will be Wrong Turn 6, and until next time, have a great day and goodbye.